Hey everyone, welcome back to another Pilates class. This time we'll be using this long theraband, and we're going to hook it underneath whatever you can use in your home. So maybe it's a sofa, maybe it's a chair, just to hold it in place. And then we can add as much or as little resistance as we want, depending on how far away we're stepping. And then we're just going to start by rocking forwards and backwards through the feet, just finding that center. And then we're going to rise up onto the toes as we draw the arms back, drawing the band down by our side, and then gently drawing those heels back down towards the ground. So we're using that resistance through the arms to help keep that balance, kind of counterbalancing our weight through the toes. We're going to keep the weight through all of those toes, especially those big toes. So we're making sure we're not rolling those ankles outwards. And then the last one here, we're going to hold it at the top as we draw those arms back, and we're just going to go for a balance at the top. And then we're going to pulse those arms back, squeezing, especially in those lats, underneath the armpits. We're squeezing, pulsing back, keep that core pulling in, hold in for a moment, and then we can lower down those heels. We're going to reach that right leg back, stepping back into this lunge position, and then pull those arms back behind us, rising up, lowering back down, squeezing those arms back. So going for this lunge and pull movement. As we lunge down, we want to think of drawing down with that back knee, with that right knee, and we're hovering it just off the mat each time. We're going to squeeze those arms back, again engaging through those lats. And we're thinking of keeping those hips square, so facing forwards. And then last one, we're going to drive that back knee down, hold it at the bottom, and then pulse those arms back, squeezing back, 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 back. Nice, keeping that back knee low, and then driving up into it. We're going to reach that right knee up towards the chest, drawing back to that lunge, pulsing those arms back for one, lifting that right knee to chest, stepping back to lunge, pulsing those arms back. Nice, working through this, again keeping those hips square, facing the front of the room. And again with this, choosing your resistance with the band. If you want a little more resistance, maybe step a bit further back, or maybe grab further down onto the band. So we're shortening that distance with our hands and the sofa or whatever you're using. Driving up into that left glute as you come to stand, stepping back and pulsing. Reaching up for this last one, driving through that left glute. This next one, we're holding it at the bottom. We're going to pulse those arms back, staying in this lunge, squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Reaching, last one, standing up as we drive through that left glute, bringing that right knee to chest. And then sending that right leg back behind us, extending through that right foot, pulsing up to the sky, squeezing up, 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 really engaging through that right glute and right hamstring. We're going to lower that right foot all the way down to the mat and then squeeze it up to the sky, drawing it down and up, keeping that right leg as straight as you can, reaching away, still engaging through that right glute, through the right hamstring. Last two. And one, drawing that knee back up through the center, through to your chest. And then we're going to pulse that knee towards your chest, squeezing through that right hip flexor, squeezing it up, drawing that core in for two and one. We're going to keep that leg still now as we work through those arms. We're going to exhale as we reach those arms up to a diagonal. Inhale, draw them back down. Reaching up and drawing down. We're still thinking of keeping that core engaged, that belly button pulling in, and still reaching through that right knee, engaging that right hip flexor still. We'll go for one last one, and then lower that knee back down, shaking off those feet, coming back central through those feet, and rising up onto those toes as you draw that band backwards, and then lowering back down, like we did before, going for these rises and these lowers. We're drawing through those toes, especially those big toes. We're not rolling out into the outside of the ankles. We're thinking of sucking those ankles in, pulling those inner thighs in towards each other, and then drawing those arms back. Last one, we're going to hold it at the top and then pulse those arms backwards, squeezing back and back, still pulling in with that belly button, squeezing those glutes. Nice, and we'll lower those legs back down. We'll go for those lunges on the left side this time, stepping that left foot back, drawing those arms back behind you, and then drawing yourself back up. So each time we're drawing that left knee down towards the mat, hovering just off the mat and then drawing ourselves back up. We're thinking of pressing through that right heel as we lift, drawing through the glutes, through that right side. And those arms are staying active, staying straight. Again, slight pull in with that belly button. Last one. And then driving up into that right foot, we're going to bring that left knee towards the chest and then step back into the lunge, pulse those arms back. Again, each time drawing that left knee up and then reaching it back behind you. We're keeping those hips square, facing to the front. And our weight is heavy through that right foot. Those knees are tracking over those toes. And on this last one, we're going to hold it up there. Pulse that left knee towards the chest, squeezing up and up. Nice for 3, 2, and 1. Reaching that leg back behind you, straightening behind the back of that knee. We're pulsing up to the sky, squeezing up, up, up. Pointing through those toes, we're going to lower that left foot down towards the mat and squeeze back up to the sky. Lowering all the way and then all the way back up, getting that full range of motion. Engaging through that left glute, through that left hamstring before we lift. So we're thinking of engaging and then lifting. Activating right from the hip all the way down to the toes. Last one, reaching that knee all the way through up towards the chest. And then we'll go for those arm lifts again on this side. Keeping stable through that right foot as you lift those arms towards the shoulders in that diagonal and then draw them back down. Staying lifted through your center. Keeping your weight pressing through those right toes, through the right heel. Last 2 here. And then lowering that foot down towards the mat, shaking off through both legs. And then we can release the band from underneath the sofa or the chair, wherever it was, and come to stand on our mat, holding that band with a little bit of distance between those hands, tucking the pelvis underneath and curving the body forwards as you reach those arms overhead. Inhale as you arch backwards, and then exhale to curve and round forwards. Just going forwards and backwards, opening through the chest at the top, and then rounding through the back, nodding the chin towards the chest as you curve forwards. And then last one, coming through the center, we're going to reach up and over towards your right side, feeling the stretch down the left. And then up and over towards the left, feeling the stretch down the right. So just a few in each direction. We're just waking up through the spine, through the upper body. Getting that different range of motion, left to right and back to front. And then we'll go for those full circles. So we're starting forwards in a curve, rolling ourselves around towards the right, up, back and over towards the left, and then switch in the direction. And we're going to try and really use all edges of that circle, of that 360 shape. So thinking of reaching to the front, back, left, right and all diagonals, all corners of the room. Just opening up through the chest, through the upper back, and then drawing those arms above the head again. And we're just going to again mobilize through the spine, this time in this forward and backwards motion. So inhale as we open the chest up, look up towards the sky. And then exhale as you draw those arms down, nod the chin towards the chest and gently roll down through the spine, one vertebrae at a time, keeping a soft bend in the knees if you need. And then we'll tuck the pelvis underneath us and gently roll back up through the spine, stacking the vertebrae one vertebrae at a time. Inhale as you look up, reach towards the sky, open the chest. Exhale, nod the chin towards the chest and roll down again. We can have a soft bend through the knees at the bottom and go for one last roll up as we draw those arms down by our sides, rolling up through the spine. The head is last to lift and then lifting those arms towards the sky. We're going to create a bit more distance between those hands and then roll those arms backwards, opening up through those shoulders, pulling the band apart and then drawing it back overhead. So just reaching behind and up. Working through the shoulder joint, just warming up through the shoulders. Finishing off your last couple here. The last one, drawing those arms down and then reaching back up. This time we're going to bring the band in front of us, so shoulder height, arms parallel to the mat, and we're just going to draw those arms outwards to this T and then back forwards to parallel. Again, warming up the shoulders, this time just through a different direction. We're thinking of using the backs of those shoulders, the delts, to pull those arms backwards. And choose as much or as little resistance as you want through this band. So obviously the closer the hands are together, the harder this move is going to be. Finishing off your last one. And then bringing yourself back to the center of your mat. And we're going to go for those roll downs again. So starting from the top, looking up to the sky and then rolling down through the spine, one vertebrae at a time, to roll back up. We're thinking of keeping those shoulders down away from those ears. And really drop that chin towards the chest as you roll down through the spine, letting that neck relax. This time when we get to the bottom, we're going to walk out to that full plank position. And then draw ourselves back up, walking those hands towards those toes, rolling up through the spine again, reaching those arms towards the sky, opening through the chest. And then exhale, nod the chin towards the chest, roll down again, walking out to that full plank, shoulders over wrists. Walking yourself back, bending the knees if you need. Rolling up through the spine, opening at the top, looking towards the sky, and then exhale, nod the chin towards the chest, let yourself ripple all the way back down, walking out to that full plank. This time we're going to point the toes of that right foot, exhale as you lift that leg, inhale to tap. So lifting and lowering that right leg, keeping that core sucked in, pushing the floor away with those shoulders. Last one, rolling up through the spine, reaching towards the sky. Opening up and then exhale, nod the chin towards the chest, rolling down again. Walking out to that full plank, we're going to go on the other leg, point those left toes. We exhale to lift, inhale to tap, lifting and lowering. Think of pushing the floor away with those arms, pulling those shoulders apart, and then walking those hands back towards those toes, rolling up through the spine, reaching at the top, opening through the chest. Exhale, rolling back down through the spine, walking out to that plank again. Another round like this. We point those right toes. Exhale to lift and inhale to tap. Really engage through that right hip, that right hamstring. Rolling back up. Reaching to the sky again. Exhale, rolling back down. Last one on the left side. Reaching that plank. Pointing those toes and lifting and lowering, engaging through that left glute, through the left hamstring, and then walking yourself back, rolling up through the spine again, opening through the chest, rolling down, walking out to that plank again, this time drawing that right knee underneath the hip, followed by the left knee. We're alternating those legs. Exhale as you draw in. Inhale to send that leg back. Think of that knee skimming just off the floor and it's coming just underneath your hip. Last one, rolling up through the spine, reaching to the sky. Exhale, rolling back down, using that breath through all of this movement to keep that momentum going. We're going to walk out to that plank for another round. Exhale, draw that right knee in. Inhale, step it back. Exhale, left. Switching them over. So exhaling each time you draw that knee in towards the chest and back. Keeping those hips stable as you do so. And then pushing your hips up towards the sky, downward dog, just relaxing yourself there. And then lifting the heels, ripple through the spine, come into that full plank, bend through the knees, send the hips up to the sky, downward dog. And again, rippling forwards again, bending through the knees, send the hips up to the sky, downward dog. Just working through a few of these in your own time, rippling forwards and backwards. And each time you find that plank position, I want you to think of those shoulders above the wrists and that body in that nice line from the feet to the head. Each time you're in that downward dog, think of pushing the chest through. And then we'll lower the knees down here, relaxing down, coming into that all fours position. With those knees directly under the hips, the wrists directly under the shoulders. And we'll just go for some cat and cows. Curving through as you pull that belly button up. And then inhaling, looking towards the sky as you pull that chest through. Exhale, curving over. Imagine being punched through the stomach, pushing the floor away with your hands. And then inhale, open up, sinking that belly down. Just a few forwards and backwards, mobilizing through the spine, and then adding any sort of rotations you want. Maybe rotating through the head, shifting the chest side to side, wiggling that rib cage. Just feeling good through the spine. Maybe we can start to add some shoulder rolls, circling those shoulders all the way forwards and then all the way backwards. Just a few times each direction. Nice, and then we're going to grab hold of that band and just loop it around ourselves so it's hugging the backs of our shoulders. And the ends of the bands are going to stay tightly wrapped underneath our hands. Tucking the toes underneath, we're going to exhale as we lift those knees to hover up off the mat. Inhale to tap them back down. So lifting and lowering through those knees. Think of that whole torso moving together. So we're pulling up with that belly button, not letting that lower back arch. And then think of those shoulders pressing into that band, just adding that little bit of extra resistance. Option if you want, just remove that band and keep this movement going. And then last one, we're going to hold it at the top, pushing those shoulders back into the band, keeping those knees hovering, just taking a few deep breaths here. We're going to inhale through the nose, pull it all in, feel that ribcage expanding sideways. Exhale through the mouth. Lowering those knees back down, going for those lifts and lowers again. Nice, keep this breath going. So think of breathing into the sides of the ribcage, expanding those ribs. And if you can, try and minimize the time down on the mat. For your last lift, lower those knees down and then just take a moment here and then hover those knees, step that right leg out, left leg, right knee in, left knee in. This time going with that left leg out first. So we're just going for these plank walkouts, plank to that hovered box position. Last one, bringing back to the center, lower and lift those knees again. Pulling in with that core, keeping stable through the upper body. It's just the knees that are touching down and then lifting back up. For your last one, stepping out to the plank again, stepping out and in, alternating each time what knee you start with. Finishing off our last one, back to that hover box, lift and lower those knees. Just lightly touching those knees down, trying to minimize the time the knees are on the mat. And we're thinking of pushing the floor away with those hands, pulling the shoulders apart. Last one, we lower those knees down. Let yourself relax as you inhale, open up through the chest. Exhale, curving over. Forwards and backwards, going for this cat and cow. Using that breath, exhaling as you pull that stomach up. Imagine being punched in the stomach. And then inhale, pull that chest through. Last one, opening up, really shining that breastbone forwards. And then sitting your hips back towards your heels. We can remove that band from behind our back. And this time swivel ourselves around so we have our feet in front of us. We're sitting tall on that mat, tall on those sit bones. And we're going to bring those arms in front, arms parallel to the mat. We're going to exhale as we roll that torso away from those thighs. Inhale, sit tall. Exhale, tuck the pelvis, rolling down and away. Inhale, sitting tall, find that length. And again, we exhale, tuck and roll. Inhale, leaning back up, finding that length. We're keeping that tension through those arms, keeping the arms parallel to the mat. Then we'll roll back, reach those arms over towards the right. Inhale, back up through the center, pull the band apart. And then exhale, rolling over towards your left. Pull the band apart again through the center. So we're working through those shoulders, working through those obliques as we get that side twist. And then as we rotate, I want you to think of rotating through the whole torso, not just the arms and the neck and the head, that whole upper body. But those hips, those knees are still facing forwards to the front of the room. And now we'll stay through the center, draw those arms up towards those ears. Exhale, draw them back down. Inhale, we lift and reach. Exhale to drag and draw down. We'll think of engaging through those lats underneath the armpits as we draw those arms down towards shoulder height. And now we'll continue this, but add a bit more core as we lean backwards, draw those arms up and down still. So we've got that added resistance through our core. Still thinking of those knees drawing forwards to the front of the room, those inner thighs staying active. Inhale, drawing ourselves back up through the center. This time we just exhale as we rotate over towards the right, back through the center and over towards the left. Same thing applies as before. Think of rotating through that whole torso and staying tall on those sit bones, reaching that crown of the head towards the sky, and then we'll draw it back towards that hold, involving that core more, keeping the arms moving as you lean back into it. Letting your eye gaze just naturally follow those arms, and then drawing yourself back up through the center, finding that length again, before rolling back further this time, all the way down to those shoulder blades, and then inhale, finding that length. Exhale, tucking under with the pelvis, reaching that lower back down, reaching the shoulders down. Inhale, drawing back up. Going for 2 more. Tucking and rolling back, keeping those arms strong and parallel. Last one, we're going to roll back. Separating those vertebrae. Inhale, drawing back up. This time coming halfway back, placing that band on top of those thighs, and just doing some rocks forwards and backwards. Getting that C curve and then rolling back up. We're pressing down into that band, into those thighs, to get more engagement through that core. Last one, we'll roll back, hold it there, lift that right knee up towards your chest and then the left, switching those legs over. So that torso is staying still. We're just drawing that knee in towards our chest, into the band, pressing down with those hands still, fighting that resistance. And then drawing ourselves back up, finding that height through the upper body, and bring that band behind our shoulders. We're going to roll down onto the mat again. This time reaching those arms up towards the sky, grabbing hold of each end of the loop. Exhale as you extend that right leg forwards. Inhale, drag it back in. Exhale, extending the left, draw it back in. So alternating these legs. Each time as you extend one leg forward, think of sinking the belly button down further. We're pointing through those toes, getting that full extension through the leg, especially behind the back of that knee, really extending, drawing it back in, knees over the hips. And we'll go for a couple more like this before we involve those arms. And then on the next one, as you draw that right knee in, bring those arms towards the chest. As you extend the leg, bring the arms towards the sky. So just pulsing with those arms, moving in time with the feet. And last one, we'll hold it in the center. Exhale as you lift the head, neck and chest, look between those knees, reaching forwards as you open the knees out wide. And then as you lower the chest down, we're closing off those knees back to parallel, lifting and lowering, using that resistance through the band to draw our head up further, looking between the knees, reaching away. On this next lift up, we're going to hold it there and then pulse even higher, squeezing up, reaching those fingers towards those toes, shoulder blades staying lifted, and then lower that chest down, releasing those arms, keeping those legs in that tabletop. We're going to reach those hands on top of that left knee as we extend that right leg forwards. Inhale as we switch. Exhale as you press on one knee. Inhale to switch. That leg that's extending, we're fully extending it, pointing through those toes. And that knee that's coming in, we're just bringing that knee just above the hip. Using the pressure of the hands into the knee to draw that belly button down, to lift those shoulders higher and keep looking between those knees. We'll go for 4 more here, slow and controlled, keeping the shoulder blades lifted. Last one, drawing both those knees in, again using those hands on top of those knees, and then inhale, shoot those arms back, legs forwards, exhale, drag them back in. Inhale to shoot out, exhale, draw back in against some resistance. Circling those arms around, going for this double leg stretch as you shoot out and back in, still sinking that belly button down. Last 2 here. And last one. Drawing those knees back to tabletop, reach those fingertips forwards, going for that 100, pulsing those arms down. Exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep those shoulders lifted. Keep that belly button pressing down. Keep looking between those knees and finding that strength through those arms, pumping those arms down. Looking between those inner thighs. If you find your neck getting sore, you can always keep one hand behind the head, the other arm keeps pumping. If not, keep both arms pumping, keep reaching, finding that strength, and then lowering yourself back down, releasing, maybe stretching off through the hips, stretching off through the neck as you look side to side. And then when you're ready, we'll go in for another set. So we'll bring those legs back to this tabletop position, reach those fingertips forwards, option extending those legs fully, pumping those arms down. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep that breath going. Option legs fully extended, or option feet can come back to that tabletop position. Also an option to lower those feet to the mat and just keep those shoulders lifted. Sinking the belly button down still. Last 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lowering the chest, hugging the knees in. And just swaying again, your head side to side, stretching off through the side of the neck, releasing any tension that you've built up. And then we can release those feet down onto the mat and just sit up so we can remove that band from behind our back. Bring it in front and then just thread our right foot through the band. We're going to hold onto the band, one hand on each side of that loop, and just extend that right leg towards the ceiling. We can extend that left leg long on the mat and just go for some leg circles, just circling freely through that right hip. Just opening up some space. And then we'll go the opposite direction. Circling around, making it as big and as free as you want. Just using the band there to support. And last one before you come back through the center. And then we'll use the support of that band as we lower that right leg down towards the mat. And then draw our body up, finding that height as you sit tall. And then exhale, tuck under with the pelvis, rolling down and away from that thigh. Draw that leg back up towards the sky. And again, draw that leg down, hover it just off the mat as we roll up, finding that length, and then exhale, rolling back and down. So with this movement here, you can use as much or as little resistance as you want through that band. If you feel you can do it without the band, feel free just to walk your hands away from the foot a bit more so you have less resistance on the band, less support there. Finding that length and that long line through the spine at the top, we're going to lift that left leg up to meet that right leg and lower it back down, working through that left hip flexor. We'll just go for 2 more here. Last one. And then rolling back down through the spine, drawing that leg up and releasing that band, just placing it to the side while you hug the back of that right calf. Pulse that leg in for 2, inhale to switch. Pulse, pulse, and switch. We exhale on each pulse in, and then inhale as we switch those legs over in the air. We're keeping those shoulder blades lifted, almost like you're trying to kiss your knees. And those hands are just there lightly for support, but most of this movement is coming from that core, coming from the hip flexors, the quads. And then keeping that left knee this time tucked in towards the chest. We'll then grab a hold of that band and loop it around that left foot instead this time. Releasing that left leg up towards the sky, going for those leg circles, circling outwards to start with, creating that space through that hip joint again. Last one before we switch the direction, this time circling in, down, out and around. And just let that leg be as free as you want, letting the leg be heavy into the band. Should feel quite nice just to relax into it. And then we'll keep that leg through the center as we draw up through the chest, rolling as you hover that leg just off the mat, finding that length at the top, and then exhale, tucking under with the pelvis, rolling down and away, letting that leg reach up towards the sky again. We'll go again, reaching, lifting, drawing the toes down towards the mat, finding that height, and then rolling back and away, drawing that leg up to the sky, get that nice hamstring stretch. Drawing down and up. And we'll go for our last one, rolling up through the spine. And now we'll lean back slightly with that torso as we exhale, lift that right leg to meet the left one, draw it back down, just 3 more. And 2. And last one. Releasing that body all the way back down towards the mat, drawing that leg up towards the sky, placing the band to the side again, going for some more hamstring pulls, drawing it in for 2 and switch, and in, and switch. Again, we're thinking of that core doing the movement rather than those hands. And then we'll bring that right knee in towards the chest, going for those single leg stretches again. Pressing down onto the knee to help press that belly button down further, to help lift those shoulders higher, and extending through the backs of those knees to find that length. We're reaching those toes away. After your last one, bring those knees in towards the chest, lower the chest down onto the mat, and then just extend that left leg long, reaching that right leg up towards the sky. We're going to activate through that right hip flexor. Keep those hips stable and bring those arms down towards the mat. Inhale as you shift that leg towards the midline of your body. Circle it down, around, back up through the center. Same direction. Circles just going inwards. And we're aiming to keep those hip bones pointing directly up towards the sky. Last one, and switch the direction, circling out, down, around, through the center. And the aim through this exercise is not how big or how fast you can make these circles, but about how controlled. So we're going to anchor that left heel down into the mat the whole time. And then hugging that knee in towards the chest, just take a moment before you switch the legs over. Then we'll reach that right leg long on the mat, bring that left knee in towards the chest, and then reach it up towards the sky. Activating through that left hip flexor, flexing through that left foot, bringing the arms down by our side, and then circling that leg inwards. Inhaling for a circle, and then exhaling for a circle. Keeping those hip bones square, so pointing those hip bones directly up at the sky, pulling that belly button down towards the mat, and then switching the direction, circling outwards, this anti-clockwise direction. Again, thinking more about the control rather than the size and rather than the speed of the circle. Finishing off our last one, and then hugging that knee in towards the chest. And just take a moment to do what you need to do here, maybe circling through the ankles, maybe hugging the knees in towards the chest, and then just placing both of those feet down onto the mat, roughly hip distance apart. And then we'll grab hold of that band with both hands, just a little bit of distance between the hands, and then place the band across our hips. We're going to press down through the heels, press the belly button down, curve through the pelvis as we roll up to the top of that glute bridge, inhaling at the top to then exhale, roll back down. And again, we exhale, roll up, squeezing the glutes at the top, inhale, rolling back down. So we have the band across our hips here just to add that bit of added resistance. And now for these next few, we'll think of just reaching the pelvis straight up towards the sky and back down a little bit faster this time. So think of more of a hip thrust type movement than that roll through the spine, pulsing up and down, up and down. Think of pressing through those heels, pressing those hands down towards the mat, and then we can lift those heels if we want and keep that movement with the hips going. So our heels are lifted, toes drilling down into the mat, rising up and down with the hips, squeezing those glutes. Now keeping those hips lifted, reach the band towards the sky, slight bit of resistance through it, lift and lower those heels, lifting and lowering. Keep those hips reaching up, keep pulling the band apart, keep drilling those shoulders down, hips lifted, glutes tucking under, lifting and lowering those heels. Last two. And last one, holding those heels up there, we're going to pull that band apart more and draw it back in. Pulling out and in. Pelvis is staying tucked, rib cage is staying, sinking down towards the mat, heels staying lifted. Now we'll combine the heels and the arms. As we lift the heels, we pull the band apart. As we lower the heels, we draw those hands back together. Lifting and pulling. Nice. Keeping the pelvis lifted the whole time. Keeping that ribcage sinking down. Last one, we hold those hips still, hold those feet still, pull the band apart, we pulse, 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 squeezing out, pulling out. And then lowering those hips down towards the mat, reaching those arms overhead. Exhale, lift the hips, draw the arms up. Inhale, lower and reach. Exhale, squeezing them together. Inhale, reaching away. An option to add that heel lift as you lift the hips up. And then lower as you reach away. Exhale, we lift the hips, draw the arms down. Inhale, reach away. Think of engaging through those lats as you draw those arms down. Inhale, rolling back away. We'll go for 2 more here. We exhale, squeeze, draw everything in. Inhale, reach away. Last one, exhale, reaching up. And then we'll bring the band back over our hips. As we exhale, bring that right knee up to tabletop. Inhale, tap those right toes. Exhale, we lift. Inhale, we tap. We're trying to keep those hips at the same height. So careful we're not dropping that right hip down. Both hip bones are level. And we're still squeezing up with those glutes. We're still pressing down into the floor with that left heel. And we're squeezing that left inner thigh towards the midline of our body. We're going to inhale as we send that right leg forwards. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, we extend behind the back of that right knee. Inhale, draw it back to tabletop. We're pointing through those right toes and still staying lifted through the pelvis. Finding that full extension each time. Last one, we're holding it straight. Draw the leg up towards the sky. Lower the hips down to the mat. Exhale, reach up. Inhale to tap. Exhale, reach up. Little hip lifts. Reaching. Imagine we're pointing the toes all the way to the sky. And then lower the foot down onto the mat, rolling back down through the spine. Then we'll go for those glute bridges again. So squeezing the pelvis up and back down. This time, if you want option, lift those toes and the balls of the feet up off the mat this time. Instead of those heels, lifting and lowering. Moving both hips at the same time. Keeping both hip bones level. And last one, hold it up there. We'll shift the weight into that right foot. Exhale, lift that left leg. Inhale to tap. Lifting from the knee and then reaching the leg away to tap the toes. All while pressing those hands down into that band, finding that resistance, still keeping that right inner thigh pulling in. That left hip is lifting to match the height of that right hip. And then we can add that straight leg version. Inhale as we extend that leg away. Exhale, draw it back in. Pointing through those left toes. Really extending behind the back of that left knee as you reach away. And then drawing back in with that knee over the hip. And we're moving slowly through this movement rather than rushing it. Think of adding that resistance as well on the way in as you drag that knee back in. Last one, we're going to reach that leg up towards the sky, going for those hip drops. Reaching up and up and up, pointing through those toes, reaching towards the sky. Last 2 and 1. Lower that foot back down towards the mat. Keep those hips high. We're going to reset. Draw those arms up towards the sky, then up and overhead. Exhale, draw them back over your chest. Inhale, reach overhead. This time, lower the pelvis down towards the mat. Exhale, lift the pelvis. Reach the arms up above your chest. Inhale, overhead. Lower the pelvis. Exhale, lift and reach. So that we're adding this counterbalance through the hips, through the arms. This should feel quite nice to release through the spine. We're going to either stick with that version or, if you want, option to go a little further. This time as you exhale, lift those arms. We can also lift those legs to tabletop. Inhale, lower the arms, lower the legs. Exhale, lift and reach. Press that band into the thighs on the way up. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift, reach and press. Inhale, lower. And each time as we lift up, we're thinking of the lower ribs reaching down towards those hip bones. We're thinking of those legs moving at the same time and those toes touching down and towards the mat at the same time. And we're letting our eye gaze naturally follow. So as we lift up, we're looking between those inner thighs, reaching. And then last one, hold it at the top. We're going to thread both feet through that band and use that to help roll ourselves back up. We're going to keep that resistance through the arms as you roll back down through the spine, tucking under. Inhale, we're going to roll back up, finding that length at the top. Option, if you want, release that band. Rolling down through the thighs. Inhale to roll back up, find that height. Exhale, tuck under with the pelvis, rolling down and away from those thighs. Reaching overhead, last one. Exhale, reaching, find that height. And then lower those feet down onto the mat. Just take a gentle release over those legs. Just relax the head down. And then just take a moment, do any stretch you need through the neck. And then we'll go for some windscreen wipers with those legs. Just rocking the legs side to side. Just opening up, relaxing through those hips, just letting them flop. And then we'll just do one last thing here to open up through the hips and the chest. So this is especially good if you work at a desk all day. So we'll reach those hands a little bit behind those shoulders, fingertips facing forwards. Tuck under with the pelvis as you exhale, squeeze the glutes up, reaching to the top of this reverse bridge. Inhale, lower the hips back down towards the mat. Exhale, we lift and reach, open through the chest. And then exhale, as you lower the hips down, think of the chest growing taller still. We're letting that eye gaze naturally follow the whole time. So that head, that neck is staying in line with the whole spine. Just a couple more like this. Feeling the stretch through the hip flexors at the top, feeling the stretch across the chest, opening through the shoulders. And then we'll lower ourselves down onto the mat. We can swivel ourselves around onto our stomach. And just open, we'll stretch through the abs. Opening the chest, going into this mini cobra stretch. Maybe just looking side to side. And then sending those hips back towards those heels, relaxing yourself down into this child's pose, stretching off through the lower back, letting your head relax down onto the mat. Just slowing down your breath here. Well done, everyone. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you next time.